Hi, I'm Christy Rost. Today's show is inspired by a visit to Albuquerque, New Mexico. My husband Randy and I have been there before, but this was a more in-depth visit to explore its history and food traditions. One of those traditions was born of necessity for the Native Americans, fry bread. Welcome to At Home with Christy Rost. So fry bread, it was born of necessity because when the Indians were rounded up by soldiers and taken to reservations and to camps, they were given lard and they were given flour. And so the bread that they made from those two ingredients became what sustained them so that they could make it through those first winters. When I went to the Albuquerque's Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, they have this marvelous restaurant there. And if you ever go, and it really is a must-see in Albuquerque, if you ever go, make plans to have lunch in the restaurant. The food is amazing. And that's where I had my very first Navajo taco. And so that's what I'm going to make for you today. And I'm going to start with a lamb stew, which goes on top of the taco. So I have a pound of ground lamb here. Now in the restaurant, the chef made it with little little cubes of lamb loin. And that was beautiful. But that has to be cooked very slowly to make it nice and soft. I'm gonna add just a little bit of olive oil here. You could use a little canola oil. This lamb does not have a lot of fat. So anyway, so they used little cubes of lamb loin, and that was spectacular. But that's more expensive, sometimes harder to find, and a lot of times you end up getting a bigger piece than what you really need. It's so much easier to just buy 1 pound of ground lamb. You'll get the same flavor, and it cooks so much quicker. So I'm going to saute this just until it gets cooked through, and then I'll add in some onion. So while this cooks, the museum was really an experience to go to the cultural center. The museum traces the history and culture of Native Americans in the American West from the early days to present times. And in the courtyard of the museum, they also have tables set up for some of the local natives who are artists. And Randy and I actually bought a gorgeous clay pot there. Now, this one I have bought for my husband Randy in New Mexico, but that is not the one that we bought at the museum. But anyway, beautiful, beautiful artwork, basket weaving, incredible capes that were used for ceremonies, all kinds of beautiful, beautiful artistry from hundreds of years. So it's really a fun place to go. Another place we went is a national monument that has etchings in the rock from hundreds of years ago, also done by the indigenous people. And it's just the most amazing sight to see and know that it's been there for a long, long time. So there's a lot to see in Albuquerque, and I'm really glad we spent a little extra time there this year and really checked it out. So this is almost done. I've got a little more fat here, so I'm going to drain this. Just take a spoon to drain this off, I think. There we go. And I think one more here. There we go. Okay. Then I'm going to add in some onion. A hatch chili that we roasted in the oven until the skin blackened, and then put it in a plastic zipper bag and steam it for about 10 minutes. As it steams, it will soften. And then when you remove it from the zipper bag, you can peel off the outer skin, which is rather tough, and you don't want that in your dish. Quick and easy to do, and then just seed it, split it in half, take off the stem at the top. You simply remove those seeds and chop it up, and then it's ready to go. The other thing that's nice about when hatch chilies are in season, you can do a bunch of them all at one time in your oven or on the grill. Grill's a great place to do that too. And then put them in plastic zipper bags and put them in the freezer. That way you can pull it out whenever you want it. And I do that quite often. So now I add in a little bit of garlic. And I think I'll add 1 extra garlic clove in here. I always like to have a good balance of my flavors, and there's nothing like a little extra garlic in there. You can never have too much garlic, no matter what you're talking about. Super. There we go. Stir this in. This smells really, really good. Okay, now I'm going to add in a little bit of cumin. I have about 1.5 teaspoons here of cumin. I have 1 teaspoon of oregano. You can use Mexican oregano if you can find it. Stir this. It smells so good. I'm going to take about 1 tablespoon of flour. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on here just to thicken it up a little. And just keep your heat about medium. And then some beef stock. Add some liquid there. Stir this. The flour will help this to thicken a little bit. And then I'll set it aside and just let it simmer for about 10 or 15 minutes. And so now I can make some pinto beans. So I have a small saucepan here, and I'm going to add just a tiny bit of oil in the bottom, just like 1 teaspoon. I'm going to saute some onion, just briefly. In the meantime, the lamb is just going to simmer for a few more minutes. Then I'm adding in 1 can. You can use pinto beans or Great Northern beans, and it's drained and rinsed. Add those in. Tiny smidge of cumin. This is about 1/4 teaspoon. A little bit of cilantro, fresh cilantro. Add in some water or broth and just let these simmer for about 15 minutes. And these will be added onto the top of the Navajo taco. So next, we're going to make fry bread. So now I'm going to make the fry bread. I have 2 cups of flour. I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of baking powder and about 1 teaspoon of salt. Stir this together till it's well mixed. Then I'm adding in some milk. I have about 1 cup and 1/4 of milk here. I'm going to stir this just to combine it to form a soft dough. So the ingredients are very, very simple for fry bread because the original fry bread was very, very simple. And they probably used water as opposed to milk. But today, fry bread uses milk for the flavor. Then I add some flour to my board. And I'll need a fair amount because this is a pretty sticky dough. And I turn this out. And I'll be honest, when I ordered the Navajo taco, at the Indian Cultural Center, I had no idea what it was going to look like. Boy, was I excited when they brought it to me. So I'm going to add some extra flour on top, because again, this is very sticky, very wet dough. You just want to get it lightly kneaded. Add some more flour. Use it on your hands as well as in the bread. Okay, so I grabbed an extra little bit of flour because this dough really is so sticky. And again, we're just going to bring it together and knead it. Beautiful. It's starting to come together nicely now. And at this point, I'm going to cut it in half because I'm going to save some of this dough to make dessert. I'm going to make cinnamon dusted fry bread, and that'll be really yummy. So we'll just put this aside for a little bit. I'm going to put it on a little bit of flour, let it sit there, and I'll just work with this one. Again, a little more flour on the board. Knead it again just to bring it together. Okay. Then I'm going to pat it out until it is about a ½ inch in thickness. And I've been preheating my oil here. I'm using some canola oil and just preheating that until it's good and hot. It shouldn't be smoking, but it should be hot. And then very gently and carefully transfer this into the oil. Don't dump it. Slide it in gently so it doesn't cause the oil to jump up and burn you. Just gonna let it sit there. It won't take very long. It only takes a very couple minutes to cook on one side. I'm going to wash off my hands. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sharp knife and I'm going to put a hole right in the center. And that will ensure that it cooks all the way through in the center as well. And you can see the sides are already getting nice and brown. So then I'm going to very carefully turn this over. And again, you want to make sure you don't dump it into the oil because it'll splatter and you'll get burned. I'm just gonna put a little hole there again, just to make sure that it cooks all the way through. This is more important at high altitude than any place else because everything cooks at a lower temperature here. It may be boiling, but it's boiling at a lower temperature. And you can see this has come together really, really quickly. I will admit my fry bread is not as beautifully, perfectly round as the one I had at the Indian Cultural Center, but it looks pretty good. See what it looks like here. Oh, it's gorgeous. Okay, almost. We're almost there. I do want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through in the center. So I'm taking a peek. Nope, not quite yet. So we're gonna let that sit for another few minutes. In the meantime, I'll just tell you, back over here, I have my lamb and it's been simmering really, really slowly over very low heat. And look how beautiful this is. This is going to go on top of the fry bread. And then I also have my beans. Let me grab a spoon so you could see those. And I added just a tiny bit of chicken broth to them. And see, look at that. See, these are absolutely gorgeous. And that will also go on top of the fry bread. I'm going to check the center again of the fry bread. Not quite ready. So I'm going to turn this one more time. I don't want it to get overdone on either side, and let it cook that other side just a little more. While it does that, I'll quickly form my other dough, because this will be for the dessert. You always want to have a little something sweet. And because you see how big this got, I'm going to cut this one in quarters. Like that. Make that into rounds. It's still the stickiest dough ever, I'll tell you. There we go. So as you can tell, this is kind of a labor of love, but I'll tell you, every dish should be made with love. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. That is beautiful. That's going to be great fry bread. Very carefully transfer it to some paper towel to drain. I'm going to turn off my heat for just a minute so it doesn't get too hot. I'm going to flatten these guys down. So you want them pretty flat, probably about 1/4 inch in thickness, and they don't have to be exact. Don't have to be exactly round or exactly anything, because once I put cinnamon sugar on them, nobody cares what they look like. Okay, I will turn the heat back on now. Just wanted to make sure I didn't get it too hot. And I'll slide these guys in ever so carefully. As long as you have the oil hot, you might as well do dessert at the same time. And one more. Now, I did not have this at the Pueblo Cultural Center, but I knew I had this extra fry bread, and I thought, well, gosh, I might as well use it and have some dessert out of this. So that's what I did. So again, I'm going to put a little hole in the center of each one, just to make sure that it cooks through real well. And as you can see, it's taking almost no time at all for it to get golden brown, which is really exciting. One of the other places we went in Albuquerque that really surprised me was the Balloon Museum. I thought, okay, how good could a balloon museum go? But everybody says you should go. So I did. Randy and I went to the Balloon Museum. I was blown away. The place is fantastic. And it is the history of balloons and really aviation in so many ways, from early days all through competitions that still take place now with these monstrous size vehicles that are supported by balloons, and even into the war years, balloons that were used by by us, by the Japanese, by Germans, whatever, to for war purposes. It was a fascinating place. So that would be another place I would highly recommend you check out. And of course, there's the old town of Albuquerque, which is so charming and a couple hundred years old, and it's got all these wonderful buildings and now shops, artists, restaurants, beautiful, beautiful, fun place to go and spend a few hours. So we're going to just let this finish up. The fry bread is ready, and I'm going to go ahead and begin to assemble everything when we come back. And now, assembly of the Navajo taco. So I have my fry bread here, and I'm going to add some of this wonderful lamb stew on this right here. This is not the kind of taco that you're probably used to, that you fold up. This one you eat just like this. So now I'm going to turn this and take some chopped lettuce and put it on this side. So you've got all these pretty colors. Then I'm going to take some tomato that's chopped and put it on here. This is truly a meal for more than one person. They served me my Navajo taco, and I took one look at it, and I knew that that was a multi-day effort. So we took the rest back to our hotel. So I put a little red onion here. I'm going to put some cilantro right there, a little bit here. Now I have the beans that have been simmering slowly. I put those on this side. I love it. Doesn't that look lovely? Woo! And then the pièce de résistance, we're gonna put some grated cheese on here. Put that right over the meat so it can melt. I'm just using my microplane. Love this yellow one. This is a new color this year. I love it because it goes with all my plates. Beautiful. So this is the Navajo taco. Now you need dessert. So I have my little tiny fry breads here. And I take a little bit of sugar and about a teaspoon and a half of cinnamon and some freshly grated nutmeg. I love nutmeg, so I like to put lots in. Stir this up. This is a treat. And then sprinkle this on top. And this may kind of remind you of sopapillas. Sprinkle this on your fry bread, and you have dessert. So thanks so much for joining me today on At Home with Christy Rost, where great food, beautiful wines, and hospitality are a tradition. I'd love to hear from you, so please connect with me on my Instagram and Facebook pages, and be sure to visit my website at christyrost.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Salt Seasons, Little Bear Honey, and our good friends at Analon Cookware, Melissa's Produce, Car Valley Cheese, Visit Albuquerque, Microplane. Thanks to all of you. See you next time.